With that, I'd like to introduce Cindi Card. Cindi has been part of our focus suites for a couple of years now. She's one of the busiest people I know. She does a million different things. If you go to sporting events in Lincoln, you've likely seen Cindi there. You've got a Husker game or a Salt Dogs game or something like that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cindi.
All right. Well, hi everyone. I'm Cindi Card. My business is Performance Downloads, and as Steve mentioned, I've been a Focus Suite candidate here for more years than I care to acknowledge. So I'll just leave it at that. When I started out on my entrepreneurial journey, it actually coincided with Startup Week. And so I kind of started going to all the different Fuse co-working things and checking things out and trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with this great idea that I had. And so what the idea is basically performance downloads are audio guided visualizations that athletes use to help them become better athletes. And so basically, in its roughest essence, I help people with their head game, okay, in sports. And so what I kind of want to do today is I'm going to talk a little bit about my business, and then I'd like to share with you two of the best resources that I've come across. One being the launch book, and I brought this one to show you just how much of a resource it has been, because I don't know if you can see this. I've got writing in it, it's gotten wet. It's just been a fabulous resource for me. And then I also want to talk about MailChimp. And last but not least, I want to share with you the product that I launched yesterday. And so yes, thank you. And so entrepreneurially, Kat always talks about it as the entrepreneurial seizure. And what that seizure was for me is, like everybody, and like Steve mentioned, I'm a Husker fan. I love my Huskers. And so I was walking the dog, and the Huskers were sucking eggs. I mean, and we kind of know how that's going this year, but this is a few years ago. And so it bummed me out. I mean, I no longer have football injuries from, kicking things when they're doing bad, because sadly, we've all kind of gotten used to them losing. But I was walking the dog, and I was thinking, man, how can these guys that were so highly recruited and such great athletes stink? I mean, they've got the skills, they know what they're doing, they've been trained, they were heavily recruited, and yet they stink. And so as I was walking, I started to go, it's in their head. And all of a sudden it was like that moment when I went, wow, if I could talk to their minds and talk to their head, then maybe we could get them through this and they won't stink anymore. So I started doing some research, and I found out that there's a lot about imagery and visualization and effectiveness through research. And virtually every coach I talked to was like, oh yeah. But if you ask a coach, okay, how much time of your practice time do you spend working with your athletes on the mental side of performance, the head games, if you will? And the coaches were like, I read a lot. I tell them about stuff. Well, telling isn't doing. And so that's kind of where my journey began. And at first I was like so excited about it. Started thinking, wow, I can apply this to baseball and football and basketball, soccer, heck, music. They perform. Anybody who performs could benefit from what my idea was. So I started to dream this huge dream, and I named the company Performance Downloads. The idea being that these were audio downloads that can help with performance. So and I kind of learned a little lesson from Huddle, because if you know the story of Huddle, they started out exclusively football. One of the few things that Bill Callahan did here that was really good. But anyhow, when they started, that's why they have the name Huddle. But of course, their product applies to every sport and all performance. So they were kind of limiting by accident in how they named their business. So I wanted to avoid that pitfall. So I went, performance downloads. And I had this great idea, and I started mapping it out, taking notes, filling out all kinds of pages. And as I went along, and as the years kind of went by, it was too big. So I had to bring it down. And so I don't even know, I can't really even tell you why I focused on basketball, but I was like, man, what I really need is a cash cow. I need that one product that can generate a revenue stream for me. And so I funneled down to basketball, and it's like, what's the one thing that people really need in basketball? They need to make free throws. So I kind of went along that journey. Well, one of the values for me being here at the Focus Suites is that I have resources. So Kat and Brooke and Steve introduced me to Launch, because my first thoughts were for this huge website and maybe an app. One problem with that is it requires money, and I made the conscious decision to bootstrap. I don't want investment. I don't want investors. I want to control my idea. I want to control my growth. And so, yeah, it sucks. But, you know, I've got my sweat equity, and I'm going to bootstrap it. So this book Launch, what this did for me was it created a formula, because the book is based on something called the product launch formula that I saw could work for my business. And so what this basically does, I'll just kind of give it into a quick nutshell and then move on to other stuff. But what it basically entails doing is it says, okay, you've got this product. So what you want to do before you launch it is you want to build a list of people who are potential clients and purchasers of your product. And you want to build a relationship with that list. And I'm thinking, oh, there's more years of being poor. You know, so once you have that list, then you can launch your product by having that special offer that you set aside, and then you announce it to your list. And in this formula, he talks about 3 specific emails that you generate that basically reach out to all the folks in your list and say, hey, here's something that's coming, and it's really cool, and it can help you with this, that, and the other thing. And then it goes on to the next email. After you've generated that interest, then you're going to go, oh, this offer is so big, and it's only going to be available on these days. And then the 3rd email comes, and he talks about sitting in his bathrobe and like pushing the button, and out goes the email saying, okay, doors are open, we can take orders. And he talks about making 6 figures in a day. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so I was like, huh, yeah, all that no, poor, 6 figures in a day. I'm down for that. I want that. So I said, okay, this is the formula I'm going to use for my product. So then we moved to, how do you create a list? You know, it's like, I love you guys, but I really don't see you out there playing basketball. Well, maybe you. But it's like, really, where am I going to get this list of names? And so one of the things I did was I created, oops, they're in my pocket, I created cards. Well, as Perk reminded me, if I'm lucky, maybe 1 out of 10 people might actually look at the website off of this card. So it's like, how am I going to build this list? And I'll be honest, I'm still working and generating that, but my idea was a free product, okay? So if I can get a free product out there, and remember, I'm audio downloads that you download onto your phone off of the internet. If I can get people to go download my free product and try it, then I can ask them for their email address in exchange. And that creates my list. So I'm gonna have everybody pick one of these, but once I have my list, okay, so how do I communicate with these people? Because part of that product launch formula is once they've downloaded my freebie, I want to build a relationship with them. Well, I can't fly out to all these different places, and there's only me, so how am I going to reach out to all these people? Well, one of the best ways is through email marketing. And like I did a little bit of research, pulling up and saying, you know, I know how full my email box is and all the promotional stuff I get. And it's like, honestly, is email marketing even a thing anymore? And interestingly, the statistics say, oh yeah, it's very effective. It's a big bang for your buck. But you have to catch them in the subject line, and you have to have something that people want to open it up. And so I learned about MailChimp automations. And here, I'll let you, if you don't mind, take one, pass it down. See, I've got mine separated by color. So what I did is I created for everybody, I'll share with you my little resource. Oh, should get a new one. Here, grab another one for me. Okay, so what this is this is a workflow I use to try and figure out, okay, so as I build a relationship with someone, first of all, when they first get on the list, I want to welcome them. I want to say, hey, congratulations, how are you doing? Thank you. And I want to share, I want to reiterate why they made that purchase, why they downloaded the freebie anyway. There's so many different types of emails, and they have a different sequence. And what I have found is that when I use this sheet, I'm a paper and pencil person, so I print it out. Other people might be more likely to use it on a computer or whatnot. But I'll pencil it out and kind of create a map and just brainstorm. What do I want to say to people? What order do I want to say? And I want to keep my messages really small. Because if you're like me, I open up an email, and if it's a big newsletter with copious amounts of reading, I'm sorry, I love you, but I ain't going there. I just don't have time. I mean, I really don't. So you want to keep it short. So you're better to communicate in short bursts instead of, big rambling articles. And I'm still learning on that one. So anyway, what I found is that as I brainstorm and create this, my order changes. And so I'll brainstorm on this, then I grab the next sheet, and then I reorganize it, and then I grab the next sheet, and then I reorganize it again. Eventually, I get to a point where I actually have what I want. And so it's like, okay, so like right now, what I've just created is a customer onboarding for my free product. So when people download the free product, they get the freebie. About 3 hours later, they're going to get a welcome message from me. Hey, I see that you downloaded it. That's fabulous. And then 16 hours later, they're going to get a tracking sheet to help them use it. And all through the process, I want weekly touches, but I'm giving them a resource. I'm giving them something that has value. So that what I'm really doing in a lot of ways too is training people to open my emails, because I'm not selling them anything. I'm giving them something in a small amount of time that pertains to something that's of interest to them, assumably because they downloaded my download. So also being a bootstrapper and being poor, when I created my MailChimp account, well, actually I discovered that there's like 5,000 different apps and things that you can use. There's Sendinblue, there's MailChimp, and I read the reports on all of them, and I'm sure that there was one that was way better than MailChimp for me, but it's just me, I didn't have time. So you know what, they're the biggest, and it's free for up to 2,000 subscribers. Hey, that'll get my list rolling, works for me, so I did the MailChimp free. Well, the downside of that is you don't get any support. So the trade-off, free, no support. And one of the things I think MailChimp does, don't be mad at me, MailChimp, is that they move the buttons. So to advance to different pages. So it's like here, and then it's down here, and then it's over here. And so if you're not really good at computer, it just takes too long to learn. You end up on this journey where you're just going, I can't do this anymore. This is making me insane. And then you suck it up and you pay whatever it is that you're going to pay and do the technical support. Well, I want to help you all to avoid that. So I have written step-by-step instructions on how to create a MailChimp automation. And what's beautiful about MailChimp automation is you don't have to follow the product launch formula. For some of you, it won't work for your product launch, or it won't work for your product. But for others, it will. And so where this can be really good, like one of the things you can use it for is content card. Somebody comes in off the website and indicates that they're interested. Well, once they use the sign-up box from MailChimp on your website, that becomes a triggering event that unleashes emails week by week without you doing anything, automatically to those folks. So if I have a new client who's ordering custom jerseys from me, and so I don't want to inundate them with all the information at once of all the different things that I can do for them. So I take their order, I thank them for their order, and then a few days later, I let them know that, hey, we have this product over here. A few days after that, maybe a week, over here. A month after that, I can remind them that, hey, I exist. Maybe I didn't get your order, but here's some stuff. So it's just unlimited what you can do. And so hopefully you'll find this to be a decent resource for you in creatively adding MailChimp and automations to what you guys do for your business. And last but not least, as I promised, I'm going to talk about my product. So I'm going to start with the freebie. Actually, I won't. This is my freebie to get the list. My product that I'm launching is called Free Throw Doctor with Coach Poteet. And it's based on free throw shooting, okay? And I'm using Coach Poteet, who's an NAIA award-winning coach. And he's kind of the basketball free throw guru, or the free throw doctor. And he's helped even NBA athletes work on honing their free throw skills. And he feels that, just like I do, that not enough time is spent really working on free throw shooting. So here's the first one. To win this beautiful, glorious Fox 40 whistle, who can tell me what percentage of all the points in a high school basketball game are from free throws?
46.
Less.
35%.
Less.
25.
25. Who said 25? Woo! A whistle for you.
Whistle for you.
So 25%. Now in the last 3 minutes of play, there's more free throws. What percentage of the points scored in the last 3 minutes are from free throws?
35.
More.
90%.
85.
A little bit less, but you're close enough, 60%. Okay, now, in the very last minute of play, what percentage of those points are from free throws?
98.
70%.
85.
85?
All right.
Bad pitch, sorry, I should have thrown overhand. So where my research, or where my idea came from on the free throw shooting, and what free throw medley does, is it's based on research that Dr. Maxwell Maltz reported in his book, Psycho-Cybernetics. Psycho-Cybernetics kind of created that whole focus of the mind, mental side of life, mental side of sports and competition. And he cites a study that's been attributed to the University of Chicago, where they took all participants, broke them into 3 different groups, and then they tested how many free throws they could shoot in, out of 20 free throws. And then they found their percentages. The first group, they said, great, we've got we've recorded your results. We'll see you in 6 weeks. Don't touch basketball, don't practice, just come back in 6 weeks and we'll retest you again. The second group, they said, oh, you poor people, you're gonna have to come into the gym 5 days a week for 20 minutes and just shoot free throws. And then we'll retest you at the end of 6 weeks. The third group, they said, lucky you, we're gonna have you come into the science lab where we're gonna have you shut your eyes and imagine shooting free throws for 20 minutes. And so at the end of the study, they brought everybody back, and no surprise, the first group, as they retested, they had no improvement. The second group, the ones that had been in the gym practicing, they improved. Surprise. The third group, though, and this is where the surprise was, the third group that just imagined shooting free throws, they actually increased their free throw shooting percentage almost as much as the group that actually practiced. Now, today, in today's science, we understand that a lot of that has to do with muscle memory and with the way our synaptic pathways fire and a whole lot of other scientific stuff. Okay, but the bottom line is visualization works. And part of the reason it works is because our minds and our bodies, because they're so well interconnected, they really can't tell the difference between imagined experience and real experience. So if you imagine something repeatedly in your mind, you've done it. And so, and the crazy thing is, as years pass, like I've heard stories of people that have memories of this great vacation they took as children, and then they're talking about it at a family reunion, and the parents going, no, we never did that. But if you tell yourself something enough times, you can get to a point where you actually believe it, especially if you're talking about something in the past. So it's just interesting dynamics about the mind. So the freebie that I'm using, whoops, wrong one, is, just do with that, is the Superman Pose Confidence Booster. And don't anybody move, whoops, don't anybody move. I want you to take mental note of how you're sitting right now. Are you sitting in an open position with your arms up, or are you a little bit closed and down? Because according to the research by Dr. Amy Cuddy, that talks a lot about what your mental state is and what your personal power is. Of course, it could also be that you're just cold. So, especially if you're like me. So anyhow, in her research in 2012, Dr. Amy Cuddy, who did the most watched TED Talk in the history of TED Talks, she talks about how being in an open position or in standing in what they call power poses, like the Superman pose, you know, legs apart, arms at your hips or hands at your hips, head up, chin up, back straight, how that, if you will hold that position for 2 minutes, physiologically, your body changes. And what happens is that your testosterone levels, even us women, will increase by up to 20%. And testosterone, of course, is the assertiveness and hormone and leads to those feelings of confidence. But similarly, your cortisol levels, which is a hormone that modulates your stress, those will decrease by approximately 10% just by doing this for 2 minutes.
So I don't need to take a pill for low T, I can just do it.
That's right.
Who would have known?
Who knew? But it's fascinating. In the world of sports, if you just watch athletes, you know, if you think of a mental picture of Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, they're like this. They're always like this.
But he could never make free throws.
No, he couldn't. He should have been doing this before he shot instead of sitting there looking at the basket and doing his thing. And so what the free throw, or what the Superman pose freebie does, is it's a very, very short audio download that a kid can throw on their phone, throw on their headphones, and basically after a short little relaxation, because you want to get the mind primed for, you know, listening and imagining things, and then it just has you imagine that you're on the field competing, doesn't even matter which sport, and that there's a break in the action, and you do this. Because if a coach just tells you, hey, Cindy, I want you between, you know, every time there's a break in the action, I want you to do this. I go, okay, coach. And then the first week, I'll do that. And then the second week, I'm too busy worried about that stupid gal that keeps beating me on defense and or on offense, and maybe I might remember to do it here and there, but I'm not going to do it all the time. By the third week, if I'm doing it a couple of times a game, good luck. Yep, I'm doing great. But by listening 5 times a week for, I think the full download is like 12 minutes, if that, I'm having those experiences because I'm imagining going, breaking the action, I stand like this, and I'm back in action, and I stop, stand like this, and I feel power, and I feel assertive, and I feel this. And basically, you're training your mind and your body to create that, although nature helps a little bit as well. And so after about 5 or 6 weeks, most athletes will have developed the habit of doing it just by listening to a download.
This is all audio.
All audio, MP3. MP3. And so, yes?
Do you embed subliminal messages, maybe auto-suggestion?
That's a great idea. Buy more. Why didn't I think of that?
In music or something for downloads? Is that how it works
You
sometimes?
know, technically could. I'm very, as part of this journey, I have learned that I have a good radio voice. I have learned that I can operate recording software. And Kat introduced me to a heck of a sound guy that actually does the masters on my audio on my product. So it's very professional and it sounds good. He also, because he writes music, he also did the music for this one for me as well. So it's all original music. So in answer to your question, that's a good idea. Why didn't I think of that? I could put in there, buy the next one.
So this sounds similar. I worked for a company before called Brainwave Balance. And
Okay.
So there's a software program, you had electrode, you set a nice calm chair like Steve over there.
Yep.
Put the stuff on in an hour, and it basically went from here to the software, came back into audio tunes that were specific to that body.
Yep.
To help with PTSD and a whole host of
Yeah, the
things.
PTSD
Not neurofeedback,
applications.
but
Yeah, yep.
similar principles.
Yep, and that's fabulous. And that's what's so cool about the science side of it,
Yeah.
is that, you know, there are these breakthroughs and virtual reality. I mean, the different things with virtual reality and where things are going with things on applications on your phone, they're amazing. But the problem with those is, if you're a middle school athlete and you like playing basketball, is mom and dad gonna shell it out to buy that? Yeah, there's not colleges that aren't even doing it. I can guarantee you Bethune-Cookman doesn't have those, though they would love to have, you know?
I believe this because I saw it firsthand when I did what I did, and the common thing at the time was either lay on the couch and tell me about it or take a pill or both.
There you go, exactly. And so that's the freebie, and then this one, if you have anybody that you know that plays basketball, this is the one that's up right now called Free Throw Medley. And what that does is there's 3 phases. The mind tends to look at things in 3Ds, in triplets. And so there's 3 phases on that. The first part of shooting free throws is the physical, how it feels, how your body feels. The diver, Greg Louganis, before he ever would attempt a new dive, he would watch video repeatedly of someone who was a master at that dive performing that dive. And then he would like a ghost in a movie, he would step into that body and imagine what that diver felt in his body as he did the dive. And that's the first segment. The second segment is that there are some tips that good shooters will share about how to visualize the basket. Like they talk about how if you imagine that the basket is really small or it's real size, it becomes a harder target to hit than if you imagine that it's as big as a trash can. So we take you through those kinds of visualizations as well. And then the last part is using what you've learned in the first part and the second part and applying it in in-game situations. So we've used sound from a home court and a hostile opponent's court to put you in the game as you imagine stepping to the line, feel the shot in your body, you use your visualization technique, and you make your shot. And by the way, interestingly, how many of those shots do you suppose people make in their head? You'd think 100%. But what they found is that like 75% of the people will admit to missing shots in their head.
There are logical explanations to why during the game it's low free throw percentage, but at the end of the game it goes up dramatically.
Yeah, good question. It's that mind thing.
Huh.
You know, it's what makes what I'm doing really exciting for me.
Yeah.
Is because you look at like the abundance of research that's out there that never really gets applied. Like for example, the University of Virginia did some research, and they wanted to see for softball hitters, batters, if visualization had an impact on their hitting skills. So before they would go up to bat, they would have them close their eyes and imagine they would take 10 swings, 10 hits, and then they would go up and they would hit that 10 pitches. And then after they were done with that, they'd go over to this cork board that they didn't know about beforehand that had 5 different size representations of a softball. And they said, which of these sizes was the softball in your visualization? And they would pick one off the board and they'd record it. What they found is that the better hitters visualize bigger balls.
Huh.
If you have somebody that say free throw shooting 50% as
Mhm.
example. What does your research or statistics show their increase, their?
What's
better?
great is that Coach Poteet will be using the free throw medley download with his men's basketball team at Kansas Christian University this year and doing the research. And so what's interesting is that Coach Poteet, he actually had started competing, doing senior free throw shooting competitions because he had gotten to know a fellow by the name of Dr. Amberry. Now, Dr. Amberry is dead now, but at age 70, Dr. Amberry decided to tackle the question of free throws. And he ended up becoming a Guinness Book World Record holder for number of consecutive free throws made. And the number was over 2,600 in a row.
600 in a row?
In a row.
Yeah.
And then Coach, like he blows my mind. I went down to Kansas Christian, we were in the gym, and he steps up to the, he talks about when you first practice, you go in and you make the shot close. Give yourself success.
Was this on an 8-foot basket?
Yeah, standard basket. Yeah, well, it was standard, yeah, standard basket. And then he gets back, and then once he's got it into sync, he just sinks them one after the other, after the other, after the other. It's amazing. And so that's why I'm really excited about the product launch for Free Throw Doctor, because we'll be using Coach Poteet's version of the Amberry method and basically providing that visualization for athletes to use. And if you think of all the basketball games that are, the difference is a point here, a point there between victory and defeat. If you can if every player on your team just made one more free throw, that could be the difference between a winning season and a losing season, And so anyhow, so I'm excited about what we're doing. And just so you know, since I kind of let the cat out of the bag for you guys, that we have Free Throw Doctor coming, the download Free Throw Medley. When Free Throw Doctor is complete, anybody who has purchased Free Throw Medley is going to automatically receive the update that has Free Throw Doctor, because I feel that's only fair, to give them what they really, I think, wanted. And so, and the applications are just amazing. And it's taken a long time to get here. And so for those of you that are just getting started, getting going, my recommendation would be stick with it. Don't give up on your vision. I once heard a speaker say, don't quit before the blessing. And he talked about how in his life, things had just gotten in the toilet. And then just as he was about to give it all up, a little good thing happened. And then another good thing happened. I think the entrepreneurs call it traction. Yeah. And so, gradually those good things happen. So don't quit before the blessing. Any other questions? Yeah.
Last question.
Oh, sorry, I kind of went long, didn't I?
I was just curious do you have interest in expanding to football or soccer?
Absolutely.
Because I imagine field goals is really similar. I went to a high school where some of the kickers would kick a 60-yard field goal. If you can do that in the
Why was
NFL,
he recruited for Nebraska?
No, I don't really go in the NFL, but
Yeah.
I imagine that's nice you can kick a 60-yard field goal on practice when you have
Headspace.
thousands of people screaming at you.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's a little more anxiety ridden
Yeah.
than a million people watching you do it.
Exactly. And they limit, my son was a kicker, and so they actually limit you in practice on how many times you can kick, because they don't want you to blow out your leg.
Oh.
All right. Thank you so much. That was terrific.